All right, it's 8 o'clock. It's Monday, so we are here. I'm Ryan.
I'm Richard.
Here we go. What's going on, everybody? Happy Monday. It is 8 p.m., so Richard and I are here bringing you the Ryan Mercer Show with Richard Masso. And we're going to start off this episode and episodes to come to follow with Richard's news. And there is a lot of news going on, so I'm very curious to see what he has to talk about. But first... take it away, brother.
Thank you. So as promised, today's weekly news will be a little better than last week's weekly news. And so, only way to go up is up. All right. So box office this week. Again, I think box office is going to be a little zany for the next probably few months, maybe pick up in the summer.
Yeah.
Yep. So again, it's one of those things where I can almost play a game called "Has Ryan heard of half of these movies?" Probably until the summer. But number one with 8.1 million was Wrath of Man, which is Jason Statham, traditional Jason Statham action movie.
I was going to ask, what type of Jason Statham?
Yeah, his son was killed by a gang of bank robbers, and he realized it's an inside job done by the security firms, like the armored truck people.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
So he goes in and, they're just like, all right, when we get robbed, just give them the money, keep your head down. And of course, Jason Statham goes all, Navy SEAL, so it's that idea. And then he, to get to the bottom of it, coming in number two is Demon Slayer, which is a huge anime. And the kids at school talk about it. The young people in my life talk about it. So, and I believe it's only out at the movie theater, so that's why it's getting this huge attention. And then rounding out the top five is Mortal Kombat, Godzilla, and Ryan the Last Dragon.
Mortal Kombat's still up there?
Yep, to number three. And so I stole this line from somebody else I heard say it. It is very much a, other than Ryan the Last Dragon, it is very much a male-dominated kind of action kind of, you're not going to go watch The Notebook right now if you can avoid it. But everything's opening up, so I expect that in the next month or so, we should start to actually report real numbers. Because one of the other news stories today was, again, the news really improved today. I was going to say at least three things have been added just today.
Plenty of content for you.
Yeah. The first Venom 2 trailer launched, and to tie that in my first news story, and it clearly says Venom 2 only in theaters. So if you haven't seen this, check this out. I didn't think it was quite worth taking time from our broadcast today to show it to you guys. But Woody Harrelson, who's always amazing, is playing a little crazy person, is playing Carnage, the bad guy in Venom. Did you get a chance to watch it, Ryan?
I did. I was like you just said, I was on the fence, and then I saw Woody Harrelson, and he has that, maniacal look. And you said, he's always great. And I was like, I'm in. But yeah, like you said, I watched it, and that's where I got sucked in, if you will.
Yeah, because I did not enjoy. I'll be honest, I did not enjoy the beginning when it was Venom and Eddie Brock, whose real name is Tom Hardy, when they were kind of doing different voices, and it was a little campy and silly. And this is a case
to the H Mart lady or whatever.
Right, exactly, talking to the H Mart lady, cooking breakfast. And every single time we talk about the success of Marvel movies, we will mention how humor was a big reason for that. I don't know if it works in this particular area, but we will see. Maybe it's good. Maybe it just seemed cheesy. But Woody Harrelson can definitely play a crazy person. Unfortunately, he has to turn into a symbiote at some point, so it'll all be CGI Woody Harrelson at some point. So Venom 2 trailer hit. Check that out. Other kind of superhero Marvel news was that they announced Loki is going to be coming out on Wednesdays this summer when it comes out. So I think it's jumping up from June 11th to June 9th.
Yeah.
This is coming out on Wednesdays. My guess, before I did research, because that's how I like to do it, was, it's summertime. They don't want to air on Fridays. People are heading down the shore,
totally.
But the official notice was Bad Batch and other shows were already going to come out on Friday, so they didn't want to compete with their own product. And then also Black Widow will be coming out on a Friday. Again, no one is going to not see Black Widow on the Friday because Loki's out. But either way, it's fine. Wednesday, I like Wednesday. Wednesday kind of gives you that. It's just different. So, and again, at some point, they're going to have enough product out there that we might need this, Wednesdays, like they used to, I don't know how old you are, Ryan, but they used to have this thing called network television where things aired on a certain day and you watched it on a certain day. So I'm looking forward to Loki coming out on Wednesdays. That kind of gives you, though we will right now when things come out on Friday, we say don't spoil anything till Sunday. So I'm not sure what the rules are going to be for Wednesday if you have to wait till Saturday to spoil it. In the sad news department, which will probably be a feature every week, Tawny Katane passed away. And again, now this definitely tests your age, Ryan. Do you remember Tawny Katane or something you had to kind of go back and see?
Yeah, so I think one of the reasons that you and I work so well together is because I say this to Monica all the time. I feel like I lived for a short amount of time in the 80s and then came back in the 90s because I don't know what it is. Like I was always watching VH1 more than I was watching MTV. I was always watching older movies. And, to this day, I'll listen to 80s music when I work out. But yes, to answer your question, I was like, there she is, the famous, White Snake on the car. She is in that music video, but everybody knew who she was. And I was even checking our post and we can see how many people we reached. Like that was one of the more popular links that we posted over the weekend. So yeah, definitely people it hit them.
Yeah. She was also, I forgot she was in Bachelor Party, which was with Tom Hanks, which was a big deal. She was in a WKRP reboot.
Okay.
So and again, she was the it girl for a few minutes. She did actually wind up marrying the lead singer of Whitesnake, and they were together for a few years. Unfortunately, like most of these Hollywood stories, she eventually married Chuck Finley, a professional baseball player, and they both had substance abuse issues, and they were in the news a lot in the early 2000s for fighting. But unfortunately, we don't know quite how she passed away, but yeah, it's an icon from a lot of our childhoods who has passed away. Now, I don't know what kind of news we want to call this, other than breaking news, is Ryan just texted it to me a little while ago. But again, hot off of our Oscar discussion, NBC has announced they are not going to air the Golden Globes next year in 2022, which I think they've aired them as long as I remember them showing up. And Golden Globes have for years had some controversy around them, had some scandal around them. It's often been alleged that people pay to get their films nominated or their actor nominated. So there's a lot of scandal out there that needs to be kind of cleared up before NBC will have anything to do with them. I'm not going to lie. I don't think it's going to really ruin anyone's, unfortunately, other than those filmmakers who enjoy that press, it is the foreign press nominations who do the Golden Globe. So a lot of films will kind of get a little hit from it, or it helps their chances of getting nominated for Oscars.
Well, and I was just thinking, to your point, it probably takes away from the sales. I mean, that and the Oscars, they're usually like a month apart, right?
Yeah,
and then somebody wins, and you get like that boost, and then you get that boost, and then so income wise, also I would think revenue.
But yeah, in terms of, oh no, that's really thrown off my Sunday plans for that day in January. I don't think we'll see too much. But again, there are people probably not listening to us right now, but there are people who are probably like, no, that's a tradition. So like we talked about last week, where people would have parties and watch the red carpet. So Golden Globes needs to get their act together and kind of get it figured out. So again, it's like we talked last week. It's one of those things that the Oscars pride themselves on, other than their huge snafu a couple years ago where they announced the wrong winner. But again, clearly they rearranged their whole program because they thought Chadwick was going to win, and he didn't win. So they they're clearly. They could have, if there was corruption happening, they clearly, could have done that. So our final piece of news as we lead in, and I'm realizing a tip for next week is I'm going to actually write the stories down on a piece of paper, because I keep flipping back over to my Google Doc like I'm all modern, and then I don't see you and I get scared. But again, that's what news people would do. They would read the story you
shuffle it.
Yeah.
Shovel it real quick. There you go.
Why are libraries the tallest buildings in the world? Because they have so many stories. Our final piece of news is for Pride Month in June. Star Wars comic books have announced that they're going to have special variant covers highlighting some of the LGBTQ plus characters in their universe. So we're going to see like Dr. Afara, several other characters, including Lando. And when we were doing the research, I know Ryan had said to me that he was. I don't want to say you were curious about it, but you were intrigued by this. You were
Yes,
curious about it, actually. Yeah. So
yeah. No, I and here's where my issue lies, if I will. And I just want to give everybody some context. I told Richard a little bit about this yesterday. So I've said this before on the podcast. I feel like I'm one of the Star Wars fans who will really try to defend the current state of Star Wars. And, talking freely, and I'll speak, honestly with everybody here, and Richard, talking freely with one of my friends who's also a Star Wars, fan, movie lover, it feels like lately Disney has been 4 steps forward with Star Wars and a step or 2 back, right? Whether that means they got rid of Gina Carano or this particular decision to highlight these characters during Pride Month upsets people. Now, let me be clear. I have no issue with that. Okay. I have none at all. It has upset some people. And I think the reason being is because, it's never that they're against it. It's just they don't want to feel like it's forced. And Star Wars is sci-fi. So we never really discussed, relationships with the exception of a few of them. We don't know how that thing goes. I know somebody read that or wrote that in the comment section because there's going to be, I believe, a pair of aliens who are transgender, and somebody was kind of like, how do you define that in Star Wars? Like, how did that kind of come to be, right? So again, it like Richard said, it was more just I was curious, and I think it really got my attention with Lando because, you and I always talk, whether it be in person or on the podcast, about, how should we go backward or should companies go backwards instead of going forward with things? Why did we need to make it that Lando is a pansexual, right? Lando's been around since The Empire Strikes Back. He's a fan favorite. We're going back, 50 years now since the
Sure.
Empire Strikes Back, and why did we need to define his sexuality as a character? Why didn't we bring somebody else in? And that's just kind of where I'm at with it. And if I'm being honest, I was a little upset when I was texting Richard yesterday, just because for that reason. Like, and I was saying to somebody, it'd be like you're kind of messing with people's childhood. Maybe that's a little strong, but it'd be like if we went back and we're like, oh yeah, by the way, Barbie hasn't really decided her sexuality, or Michelangelo from the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles may be interested in men. Again, no issue, but why can't we just move forward and create new characters and take that somewhere?
And that's the interesting debate. And the answer that I'm making up off the top of my head, though I'm pretty sure David helped put this into my head years ago when we talked about it, because I think I had a similar conversation several years ago about trying to understand when we talked about race in characters and changing changing Jimmy Olsen was going to be black in the new Superman, and like people were losing their mind, and at the end of the day, what did it really do? It didn't do anything to the story,
Right.
Again, you're going to go watch a Batman movie in a few March 22nd, and and James Gordon will be played by a phenomenal actor in Jeffrey Penn Wright, and
Love it.
right, again, it's going to be amazing, and you're not going to sit there and go, well, and that's the thing. Well, technically, James Gordon is so much changes and evolves, and so in a nutshell, why do we do this? Well, because when these characters were written in the 70s, Lucas had his crew, and his crew was his crew. He didn't, in the 1970s, he didn't say, well, you know what, I need to make sure that I have this representation on my writing crew. He knew who he knew. Now when you throw together, again, if you and I were going to sit down and watch a movie, we're going to sit down and watch a movie, we'd have some popcorn. If we were going to sit down to write a movie, we would say, hey, and if we wrote a movie about two, a pudgy guy and an in-shape guy, and like it was about me training to get in shape for the Olympics or something, and we were only writing about the two of us, we'd be fine. But if we wanted to write, again, when we wanted to write Monica's lines, we would ask a woman for help with that. When we wanted to write, I would not write a black person's lines without making sure this sounded authentic or having that help. And so those characters didn't get to exist or have that representation years ago. And then to answer the part of why not just say, oh, hey, and here's Mr. Smith, and he's, a gay Star Wars character or a pansexual Star Wars character, which I do love that idea that, like, yeah, there are gorgeous women with 3 horns coming out of their head, like, because unfortunately, they're humans, like, they all have that humanoid look, rather.
Right, yeah.
So, but again, that woman with the 3, like, we have no idea where, and so Lando is probably a player. Lando goes with whatever he needs to, and whatever he's attracted to in the moment. But again, in 1978, 1980, when we were introduced to him, again, I also sent, when Ryan and I were talking about this, I also sent him a clip from Star Wars where Luke and Leia are kissing, yep. Because, like, I don't know. And again, it's the end of Empire Strikes Back. At that point, so again, like, there's different things, but why it's Lando is because that's why we're talking. If you had read something and it was like, and also included is, like, yeah, Dr. Afar, all these other characters of, but the world doesn't know, okay, this will help bring the attention to it. And that's, I think sometimes that's why we do this, when we can go back and, all these different characters they get to evolve, and we get to, again, and we'll continue to see it. So.
And I think one of the things I was thinking when I was thinking about it further yesterday was that if there was a character you were going to make pansexual who people knew, it's Lando. He's got the cape. He wore the bright colors in the 80s, right? He's probably, like you said, out there at a player. He's partying. He's mixing it up with different crowds. So, I mean, Lando would be a good choice, I guess. Yeah.
But again, this is something where it's why we have these podcasts, is why we're allowed to have these discussions. If they announce tomorrow that Han Solo was gay, you would go, that doesn't make any sense to me, or that throws me off.
Yeah.
But he got married, he had a kid, and wait, what's going on? And then someone would say to you, hey, do you know how many men are married right now and have kids and are also, so yeah,
somebody's like, hey, Ryan, if you don't remember, they did a horrible job explaining why Han left Leia. Okay, right there.
Yeah, exactly, right. Like, I mean, listen, the man who hung out with a large furry bear might be gay. Like, yeah, I don't know. Like, that's really gonna throw you off. So, again, so yep, that's the news this week. So lots of interesting things and stuff to watch for. So, but check out that Venom trailer. Let us know what you think.
And definitely, sorry, I just want to finish off by saying, definitely check out these covers. There's some beautiful artwork. Again, no issue with the idea. It was just like Richard said, it's Lando, so it was like, whoa, that's Lando. But no, definitely, I'm looking at these covers. Actually, why don't we share screen just real quick?
Yeah, please.
Take a look. Now, I gotta admit, I am behind on the comic books. I don't know who this young lady is.
I think that's. I don't know who that. I want to say it's the Dr. Afara I was talking about. But
I think you're right. Marvel 1 variant edition.
I hate to make people jealous with all of our knowledge when I show it off like that, but if you have to say the word, I think.
Right, just some nice artwork. I do like how they brought back this old school Star Wars emblem that they have here with the
I do like that,
the colors, the rainbow colors. Lando, he's part of it. So yeah, just some great comic book artwork. And Richard, again, for people that don't know, you said Aliens comic books sell well. Star Wars comic books sell well also?
Yeah, Star Wars comic books sell well too.
Yeah. So
I pardon the expression, and kicked myself as hard as I could, because this fall, we had 3 different sales, and all the Star Wars comic books were $2 each, and then we were like, oh, make them $1. And then they were like, buy one, get one free, and somebody, one of the guys who must have just cleared us out. And then over like December into January, with all this, like we did the podcast about it, like all the announcements that were coming. So all these books blew up that I know were in that box, just sitting there, like, and just like, I was like, yeah, who cares? Like let somebody have a deal. And, and again, not just like, oh, they went from being $2 books to $5 books, like $80 books, $90 books. There are a lot of just, these Star Wars characters that I don't know of, but like, oh, that's the first Jade Ventruri appearance, it's like, and she's going to be one of the characters in Bad Batch, and this, and so, yeah, they Star Wars comic books really blew up. But right now, some of the hot books out are The Falcon is a hot book. Winter Soldier's appearances are hot. I'm not. The Truth comic book is hot. So
I saw that, and if you're Richard, announcement time, because I saw that you had the Truth comic books posted up at your shop. What are you doing this in a couple weekends or a couple weeks?
On Saturday, May 22nd. I was going to say rain or shine. Probably just shine. Saturday, May 22nd, we will be setting up at the Berlin Farmers Market one more time. And I don't want to officially say it's the last time for a while, because we want to play the summer by ear, because I think the only thing worse than being out there in the rain is when it's like 90 degrees. That does not interest me at all. I can only imagine. As a really motivated business person, I am hoping some of the restrictions open up and people can start doing some hotel shows. But but we will definitely be out there May 22nd with tons of Star Wars books and Invincible. Which, have you watched any of Invincible yet? Is it on your radar? Invincible.
It's on my radar. I need to watch it. Yeah. I need to watch it. Yeah, I need to get caught up.
Yep, and some Falcon and Winter Soldier stuff. Again with the announcements of, it is amazing. Like Venom trailer hit, and I'm watching the Venom trailer, and they just show a woman like laying down, like that's it, like doing nothing else. And I was like counting on my fingers. 10 minutes later, my little app busts out. It's like, that's got to be the Shriek. That's got to be Shriek. And her first appearance is here. Now suddenly her first appearance that was $1 book yesterday, is a $10 book today, will be a $25 book by next weekend. It's just one of those crazy things. And I'm sure some people walked away from, with it for $1. And that's the fun thing about comic book collecting. For those of you who might even be thinking a little bit about it, is, that little speculation, is that, you can grab a book and hold on to it. And again, sometimes that book will never increase in value and may be worth nothing one day, or you can go down in your basement and find a book that's you spent $1 on is worth $25. So hopefully you guys can join us on Saturday, May 22nd.
I'm there. We're there.
Right.
So Falcon and the Winter Soldier. Okay. So I wanted to say this to you because I know pre-podcast it was like episode 3, and I want to say like maybe this is going to be an ongoing Disney Plus Marvel trend where episodes 1, 2, and 3 are kind of like, okay, waiting for something, and then boom, episode 4 or 5 happens, and you're like, whoa, I am totally sucked in right now. I'm just gonna give my little feedback. That's where I was with that. By episode 1, 2, and 3, I was kind of like, okay. Then I got myself sucked back in 4, 5, 6 to the end, and I was just like, I am in love with this. I am just going to give my simplified review, and then we'll go into it more in depth. The last episode, there was tears. I'm being honest, tears. Like Falcon and Winter Soldier, there was tears at certain scenes. I thought overall that it was a very good series, and I think they did a great job with all of it, because I think that these two characters in particular, and it would happen to Robin and Nightwing. In some cases, people are just like, oh, they're the sidekicks. Like, why do I need to tune in? But I think that they paced everything very well, added the right characters, added the right storyline, and I think they nailed it.
Yeah, this is a really good example, because this is absolutely, the Robin and Nightwing, with even the Bird and now, Falcon connection is, where Robin and Nightwing have both been Batman for a minute, but this is real. The Falcon and Winter Soldier, one of them is going to be Captain America, and in the comics they've both been Captain America for extended times. I think in the MCU they're going to be this way until we get a total reboot, 10, 15 years in the future. So we're going to see these characters be Captain America. I'll be honest, I'm jumping way ahead to my grade of I gave it a B. And the more I thought about it, it really is. Some of it is a D for me. Some of it's an A, and so it's probably closer to B minus, C plus, if I have to cut hairs, because I wish there had been 2 more episodes.
Okay.
But only if they had focused the way I wanted them focused. So I don't know how much they were affected. Their storytelling was affected by the pandemic. I made notes about every character, and every single character, I wrote the note, wasn't fleshed out enough, did not explore that enough, and me coming with the these are stories. Some of this is stories from the late 80s, similar to Wanda and Vision, like where it was like, yeah, like these were huge stories when I was 13. And Captain America being replaced by John Walker, who later would be called U.S. Agent, it happened when I was, 16 years old. Falcon and Winter Soldier obviously happened later, and we're kind of different so they kind of mushed a bunch of stories together that I wish they had, and then again, Truth is there. I call him Truth, but Isaiah Bradley, whose miniseries is called Truth. I even feel like they kind of fit that in, where it was like U.S. Agent could have been his own story. Like the guy, U.S. Agent takes over Captain America. John Walker, he's not particularly stable. He has issues. That's its own story. The Winter Soldier's redemption arc of, the little notebook he had to fill out. That's its own story. Okay. I'm actually forgetting to even mention that Sharon Carter's in this, which I had more people text me, and by more people, I mean 3 or 4 people who texted me, and were like, I just don't remember Sharon Carter. Like, why? Who is she? Why is she important? And again, because she's because I've read the comic books, she sticks out in my head. I remember her from Winter Soldier and Civil War and the roles she played there. But for a lot of people, it just felt like a thrown-in character. They threw in Baron Zemo for some comic relief. They threw in the, so there was just a lot of incompleteness to it. If it had just focused on Truth, and even then, I feel like they took Truth's story, Isaiah Bradley's story, which is supposed to be he was experimented on in the 40s before they invented Captain America, and it seems like they kind of just changed it a little bit to he was experimented on afterwards. And, and then, had the injustice of being thrown in jail because they didn't quite know how to control him or what to do with him. So, again, it was a heartbreaking story. But, again, it was like a 5-minute conversation, I felt like, and then to get in the Falcon's head. So, that being said, if I can say some positive things, the action was amazing. I like the characters, and if I can be done with my positives, the negative being is I liked Falcon and Winter Soldier's relationship later in the show. The beginning, it felt forced. Yeah. Because and again, there's a certain thing you do where, and certain people hate it. Certain people hate when you just say a sentence to kind of explain something, like, I guess it's called expository talk, like, oh, yeah, we were late because we stopped at the bank, like, it's like, oh, why didn't you show us that? But I think Falcon and Winter Soldier could, I think sometimes these shows could benefit from that. Like, from every movie, we watch every movie, Falcon and Winter Soldier were together in the Civil War, and then and then they both were dust, and then they show up at the end of Endgame. So, there aren't 5 movies of them being buddies. They're just kind of drawn together at the end of Endgame because they have Captain America in common. And even that, like, Winter Soldier was redeemed. Bucky's back. He spends his time in Wakanda. He didn't spend a ton of time with Cap. Like, he did not, reestablish a relationship with Cap that we saw on screen. So it's this weird kind of like rivalry. Who's closer to Steve? One, of course, has a lifetime of growing up with him, but hasn't seen him in like 80 years. And then the other one was his close friend from the last few years, of which 5 of them he spent blipped out. So, yeah, again, this is how it winds up being like a 20-episode TV show, which they can't afford. And then we'd be sitting here going, it should have just been like 6 episodes. So I'm sure I would have said that. So, yeah, it just didn't hit. It just wasn't the home run for me. But by no means was it bad or unenjoyable.
Let me ask you this.
Yeah,
I'm going to be the interviewer for a second.
Yeah, thanks.
So you and Imani both made a great point, I believe, when we had Imani on the podcast, saying that Ryan Oppenheimer, am somebody who likes comics, loves comics, but I am not a comic book fan. I think that's fair. I think that's true. Do you think that in some cases, maybe like this particular instance, Falcon and Winter Soldier, that you don't get to enjoy it in the way that MCU intends because you're such a hardcore fan who knows all these details, all these characters, knows how it lines up, and then they're like, okay, here's what we kind of have to do for people who don't know. They'll stay entertained. We can still give the comic book lovers a little bits and pieces here. Like, how does that work? How do you think that's?
No, I think that there's some truth to that, and I think that people who are probably rabid comic book readers would probably agree with that. Except I've seen enough of online stuff, whether through TikToks or Facebook or Twitter, of just people who I know their only history with this subject is through movies, who are just as sucked into it, who are, and again, there are people out here who I don't know who they are, but there are people out there who know these movies like the back of their hand because they watch them 100 times. Mm-hmm. They've got it all down. They read websites that, they watch the behind the scenes stuff. They watch, the director's commentary, who could speak to this series and tell us things that I'm missing, that I have no clue about, did you not realize that this person was like, oh no, I had no idea that the guy at the bar was actually in Winter Soldier. I had no idea that when Black Widow referenced this one job, that's the job they like. But these people who watch these shows over and over again, they get all that. So 100% the show is absolutely written for fans of the rest of the MCU, not just the comic books. I think that, and I think my enjoyment is often messed up a little bit because, I know how that John Walker storyline should go. And I'm expecting, it's supposed to go the way where he's Captain America for a while. And then these people kidnap his parents and kill his parents. And it's horrific. And that's what really snaps him, and I think they tried to use, his friend Battlestar's death as the little snapping point, so it was just different for me. But again, it happened so quickly. He was Captain America. And then he was on missions, and then he didn't actually have super soldiers. He was not a super soldier at any point. That threw me off. Right. I assumed they had given him so yeah. For me, I was a little thrown off, and that's the cool thing about when I talk to people who I work with or people who haven't read the comic books and see what they get out of it to kind of be like, yeah, that's and again, that's all that Disney and Kevin. I think we know him well enough just to call him by his first name. And again, that's all they care about is that, is on. Yeah.
No, I was going to say, and listen, I'm being 100% honest. If you and I had not done that episode with Amani and brought up truth and all that, that whole Isaiah thing would have gone over my head, right? I would have been like, oh, they're here, and I would have done some research and I'd be like, oh, okay, he's had a comic book. And like you said, you were holding on to that truth comic book and it was probably just sitting there, and then you were able to put it up at the Berlin Farmers Market a few weekends ago and put that price tag on it. So little things like that would definitely go over people's heads.
It is funny. It's still, I still feel very conflicted when certain books blow up like that, and I do, and this is me just being in my own head. There's a phenomenal convention that I hope comes back soon, but it was called the East Coast Black Age Comic Convention. And I really apologize if anyone is watching. But again, the focus was on Black creators, Black comics. This amazing convention they would hold it in Temple. They've moved around a little bit over the last 20 years, and I was the only dealer 3 years in a row there, and which again, I also hated a little bit because I'm yep, it's all Black creators, Black things, and Black comic creators, Black artists, and here I am. And again, I would go and I would find all the books like Black Panther and Storm and Milestone Comics, and I'd make sure they were spotlighted. And I would feel awful because it was one of those things of these are comics that they don't sell as well. They're, especially 15, 16 years ago, Black Panther was not a huge seller, right. And so these were all books that would be sold for $1, and these, and so the customer base at the Black Age Comic Show was looking for these books. And it's one of those things. So I know it'll be I can't be the dirtbag who these books are $1 over here, but they're $3 this day. So, I didn't upcharge, but it's one of those things the only people who cared about truth comics were, a person of color, or a Black person looking to read this interesting story. And now suddenly that he's in a TV show and the price is quadrupled, it's but at the same time, But again, you can guarantee that David and I, like, if you came up and were like, how much for this comic? We'd be like, $75, Ryan,
Sorry, we have a fan.
Oh.
She commented.
Oh, we do have a fan. Oh, is she correcting me?
East Coast Black Age of Comics Convention, ECBACC.
That sounds like somebody who's been there.
That's crazy.
I wish she could show you her walls right now, because she has art we had done there of 2 sketches of the kids that got done there by a really cool artist. But I don't know if she has the ability to. Can you put pictures of the artwork in the comment section? Maybe it'll come up. So I won't lie. The fact that when Shanna's kids came with me, the second year I did it, I was like, oh, I won't lie. I was like, oh, look, these guys are with me. They're my family. But yeah, no, but again, it's one of those things I know both David and I have done where it's like, Ryan, if you came up and like, nope, that comic's $75. But then if a child of color or a younger kid was like, oh, how much for this? Like you got $20, kid? Because again, like, and I think I might have said this when we talked with Imani, like, it just feels like, I understand it's my business and I 100%, I 100% respect that it is a business and I have to treat it like a business. But again, I know that there is a guy, I know the customers who are buying it because they're taking it, putting it somewhere and hoping it triples and doubles in value, to where I also know that a kid who's coming up there, or even like, I know that for you, if you're getting a book, you're getting it just to read, so like if you were really into something, I would try to find you readers copies or like damaged copies just so you could read it. And then there's just kids who really just want to like, just read it. And that's the tough part of this gig. So, but yeah, so Truth, Isaiah Bradley, and there was even like his grandson who was there, will eventually be in he'll be in the Young Avengers. So, which I expect so much, like we did with WandaVision. We're like, oh, there's going to be 80,000 guest stars. Like, oh, is Josiah going to show off his powers today? Like, no. And I'm glad they didn't. They didn't do too much.
They spoiled us with WandaVision, didn't they?
Yeah, they really did. They really did. WandaVision really. I think we're going to get a little of that magic back with Loki, because I think Loki's going to be weird. I think Falcon and Winter Soldier was your, whatever you want to call it, spy thriller, world politics, a lot of big issues. I constantly see people write the Flag Smashers weren't wrong, which their ideas might not have been wrong, but I didn't like their actions. I didn't like
execution was like,
right, I didn't like rough, their right. But the idea that like, again, we could talk for the next 22 minutes just about, but it would be just one big political discussion. Like, I know the world we live in. I know the reality we live in. If you blipped out of existence tomorrow and then, you were gone for 5 years, Monica moved the kids and she moved back with mom, and, and then a new family moved into your house, and then you suddenly show up in that house, like, and Monica's married.
I'd be like, who touched my dumbbells?
Right. Yeah, like, where's
the new guy? Was it?
Where's all this? Oh, and you'd be like, wait a second. Where's my podcasting equipment? I need to talk about what happened the last 5 years. But again, like, it would just like, and I really do hope Marvel does something with it. What a fascinating story that, like, so again, they just took you, which again, you would hope Monica would claim you, but they took these displaced people and they put them into camps, and it's one of those things we go, oh, that would never. No, it absolutely happens and would happen in our reality, not just in a superhero reality, but absolutely happen. We deal with refugees issues all the time in many countries, and the idea that the Flag Smashers were fighting against that, everyone should be. It was interesting. I don't know. Like, it's maybe the fault of the TV show that it didn't feel like they really explained it as great. Or maybe and this is where, like, fans in the comment section want to tell us, like, maybe I wasn't focused enough on it. Maybe other people got a lot out of it. So,
yeah, and I think you're probably always going to hear this from me first. I don't know what it is, but I always go right to it. The acting. I
Sure.
thought Wyatt Russell was awesome. I thought, like I said, Anthony Mackie, Sebastian Stan. I think we'll see them win an Oscar in the next 10 to 15 years, if not sooner. I think Sebastian Stan. When we first saw him, he was Bucky. Then he comes back and he doesn't say too much because it's the Winter Soldier and he's under the Hail Hydra spell and all that. Dude, Sebastian Stan is awesome. He keeps it real normal, keeps it real human. He's got that tough guy look, but not too tough. Anthony Mackie, for those of you that don't know, Anthony Mackie is in a lot of adult films, and he stands out as a lead guy.
Not adult films.
Oh yeah, sorry, not like adult. So rated R films.
Right. Yep.
Like 999, a few other. He's on that. I didn't get to watch it yet. Netflix. He's got a horror movie out, I think, right now.
He was in that. I think it was called like The Night Before with Seth Rogen and Joseph Gordon-Levitt. Where he was. Yeah, he's again. He's also the bad rapper in 8 Mile,
Clarence,
who Eminem beats at the end. Yeah, which I must have known that, but then it was on at some point in the last few years. I'm like, oh my god, that's Falcon. He's gonna lose. He went to a boarding school. Winter Soldier, whose real name is, Eric Broll is phenomenal too, but
Daniel Broll. I'm sorry.
Yeah, thank you. Daniel, Eric is phenomenal too, but Daniel is. Winter Soldier's name, of course, this is a quiz for you. Sebastian Stan.
I was like Sebastian Stan.
I'm using up my bloopers from the news. I did okay in the news. Now I'm doing it. Sebastian Stan was in with Harley Quinn in the ice skating movie. He played.
Was he? I didn't get to see that. I know what you're talking about.
Yeah, it's really good. Yeah,
Tonya Harding.
Tonya Harding's story. Yeah. And so, but he's gonna. And then you shared the picture of him as Tommy Lee.
He's gonna be Tommy Lee.
I assumed it was Tommy Lee, but it was Sebastian Stan. So he looks great in that. So,
and that's supposed to be a comedy. I think he's going to be hilarious.
Yeah, he's really good. So I think 100% we'll see Sebastian Stan up there. And again, Anthony Mackie finds the right work. But and then Wyatt Russell, who unfortunately had 2 things happen to him during the show, got mocked for his look because they threw that weird helmet on him, and he had
the jaw.
Yeah, he has his jaw. And then America discovered who his parents were, and they went nuts. Like once they figured out that he was Goldie Hawn and Goldie Hawn's husband, and Kurt Russell. Thanks.
Kurt Russell.
Right. And so again, it was like, stop it. Like that's who that is. And so again, it was just pure like, but again, that's a character. Yeah. He was so good, but they just, again, I feel like they just wish they'd given him a little more. And of course the surprise, which I was excited for, did not go over well. Shanna is just not a fan of certain people just rub her the wrong way, and so Elaine from Seinfeld is one of those people.
I was hoping you were going to say here, Julia Louis-Dreyfus.
Yeah, Julia Louis-Dreyfus. But I'm sitting there going like, oh, like big time actor is going to be on here. Who's this going to be? I'm expecting and they have you like expecting an Anthony Hopkins level type of person, but nope, she is a hugely celebrated actress, and she played that role perfectly. Again, another book like. Counts as
I need you to tell us who she is. Seriously, for those of you that don't know, because she didn't get a lot of screen time or story time. Unless I missed something. So
she dominated her. Yeah, she dominated her screen time. So she is the head of Hydra. So she is a bad person, even though she's coming across. So she's the head of Hydra, and if what they think is going to happen happens. Which it didn't happen that way. So I'm actually curious. So there is a book of characters called the Thunderbolts. And in the mid 90s, in the early 90s, all of the top artists of Marvel left Marvel. Write this down for a podcast idea we can talk about one day. Left Marvel and created Image Comics. They were frustrated with Marvel. Basically was like, you're going to get $10 a book, like that's it. He's like, yeah, but look, I created like the costume for Venom. Todd McFarlane's like, I drew Venom for you. Yeah, that's great, Todd McFarlane, whatever, and Jim Lee drew these amazing comics, and Eric Larson and Rob Liefeld, all these great artists were absolutely the reason people were buying books, and they were just getting paid nothing. And knowing also that, even if Spider-Man became a movie, it wasn't going to matter because the money was going to go to the, so they left. They formed their own company. They formed Image Comics, and Spawn and Savage Dragon and tons of other books that I don't think the regular world has heard of. and they are successful now, mainly because they get the profits. And again, it eventually goes on to give us Walking Dead and Robert Kirkman's work in Invincible. So, but several years after that, like maybe 5 years after that, in the 96, 97, sales were horrible for Marvel. Marvel will go bankrupt in a few years and be bought out by a toy company. But which is just crazy how Disney, if they had been smart enough and just bought them for like a dime, like in the late 90s, but they weren't quite there. So Marvel convinces several of these artists to come back, and they give them the Avengers, Iron Man, Captain America, and they do this, but they get to create them as if they would have created them. So it's called Heroes Reborn, and they kind of like, they go into their own new reality and they recreate all of these characters, and they have fun with these characters. But they only had a year contract. When the year's up, the characters have to return to the regular Marvel Universe. So for a year in the regular Marvel Universe, there was no Avengers, Captain America, Iron Man, I'm forgetting, Fantastic Four. So during that time, the Thunderbolts stepped in and became this big hero group. And at a certain point, we realized that the Thunderbolts are actually Baron Zemo and several villains dressed up in like new disguises as good guys. So they were just pretending to be good guys. And so this group, the Thunderbolts, then eventually becomes like, the government kind of gets to them and says, hey, kind of uses them like a Suicide Squad, where like, okay, hey, we won't put you in jail if you kind of run these missions. So the thought is that Thunderbolts, led by Baron Zemo, will become like the Suicide Squad of the Marvel Universe. And that U.S. agent John Walker will become part of that. So that was a long way to say it. We got a lot of history lesson there.
No, but that's why these podcasts are fun. So I thought it was very cool the way they brought the forgive me if I'm mispronouncing it, Dora Milaje in.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
And I thought what was really cool about it was not just the way they brought them in. We love these characters. They were kicking ass. It really, her comment about like the Dora Milaje has jurisdiction where we say we have jurisdiction. Right. Like, we didn't forget that this guy killed our leader, so we're back. He's here, and we're going to take him in with us. Right. I thought that was pretty cool. Possibly we see Zemo in Wakanda Forever or later date, since they took him, right?
I don't know. But they did drop him off at a prison. He is in. So that's the thing.
They picked him up and took him to a prison. I missed that.
He is in a government prison. So. Yeah, because he's on the raft, which is...
Oh, that's right. I did see it. I saw the raft, yeah.
Which he somehow then got his... That was one where when the character gets shot and it's Zemo's butler, and I had to actually like kind of rewind and kind of like, who is this guy? And it was, so Zemo, accomplished his goal, but from prison. So yeah, I can, what I am wondering is if we see a Wakanda series starring, the name you said that I can't pronounce. So these characters, what I wanted to have, can you repeat that name you said? Dora
Milaje?
Yeah, the Dora Milaje. I like how you say that because it's probably the right way to say it. The Dora Milaje. What I like about them, and I hope that they always treat them like this, is it's that I want them to not like lose or falter like ever. And it kind of all, yeah. It's there was a TV show called Leverage, which kind of copied Ocean's 11's kind of idea, where it's like you thought, oh no, they're going to get in trouble, but like the ending was never in doubt. Like they were going to be successful. So I kind of want the Dora Milaje to be like that, where like they're going to capture their person. They're going to, but again, all along, like, oh yeah, it was never in doubt because. That bum that you saw him. Oh, that was actually, one of our agents undisguised. Like, so, how Ocean's 11 would always just go back and be like, oh, well, this is how we actually accomplished the crime. So I want Dora Milaje to be that kind of like, yeah, they're not going to lose. They're going to, again, I don't know what stories they would do. I don't know how much involved it would be with Wakanda. So, which again, we could talk more about Wakanda for, again, and this is, I think, what my issue with Falcon and Winter Soldier is it just didn't capture me enough. Like I find myself more talking about all the things that I wish, again, like people love the boat, his sister in the boat,
Yeah.
but, and again, and I think it was meant there to kind of humanize him, because in a nutshell, I don't quite know what his deal was. He did not want to be Captain America. He gives that shield up, and then he gets it back and he takes it back. And this is probably one of my there's two nitpicky things I'll bring up. Bucky and Falcon throw the shield off the trees in a really cool, like, two friends having a baseball catch talk.
Yeah.
And they bond and they are throwing that shield, banging it off the trees, catching it, throwing it, and Falcon comes to the conclusion he's going to be the new Captain America. And then he starts training and suddenly he can't catch the shield to save his life. So I don't know what that was about. I don't know if that was just like, they needed him to look, like he improved during the montage, but it was a little weird. The other slight issue I had with that last episode was Isaiah Bradley, who basically was like, get out of my house. I don't want to speak to any of you.
Yeah.
Falcon shows up and he's like, hey, go for a ride with me. And they go from Baltimore to DC, where, again, they don't tell us how much time has passed, but enough time that a statue was built to Isaiah Bradley, who presumably no one knows about. And this is the idea, but, eagle-eyed people noticed it was like, yeah. And then they took it and they kind of buried it, back behind the, so, but again, like, it was just the idea that, like, he was, again, and we don't know the time. It could have been months or weeks, but in our time, 4 or 5 episodes ago, he was screaming, get out of here. I don't want anyone to know about me, and now you've made his story very public. So, like, does his life in Baltimore, and again, is that now people know about him, and is that what's going to happen? Is people are going to come after him for his blood? And is that how we're going to get his, So again, this is Marvel, and they do tend to know what they're doing. So my criticism today could be its compliment, 3 years from now in another show. We're like, oh, remember when I was criticizing that? It all makes sense now. So
and I think when I say that I started tearing up, and maybe it's because I read into things a lot more than Monica would prefer I do, I guess, if you will. Falcon and Winter Soldier are there. It's like, hey, we fought alien armies at this point. We saved the world. We beat Thanos, right? We have been through some shit. People that we fought with are no longer here. And I was just, like I said, when for some reason it really touched me when it's not a huge deal, but when the SWAT vehicle was going over the edge and then Falcon grabs it, right. And I was just kind of like, this might be their subtle way of saying, like, this is Falcon coming into his own. He is going to be Captain America. I just thought that was, I think, and this is just my opinion, I think that they knew how to pace it in the sense that, like, listen, we can't really make this anything huge, if you will, right? Because he's not Captain America. He's not Tony Stark. He's making a name for himself, and this is a nice little origin story, if you will. Because did I read that? That's confirmed. He's going to be Captain America in Captain America 4.
Correct.
Right. So, they're bringing him into his own. It might be like you said, it might be like, oh, everything I'm talking about now suddenly makes sense. And, this is how they built it up. So I think that they knew that they had they had two beginners in their hand, because, people that they know are no longer with them, and they're doing their own thing. They're figuring life out, and we can't make it too intense, if that makes sense. We can't give them too much of a challenge. We can't have aliens come down from the sky, because they'll be totally screwed. They're not, like, ready for that kind of fight yet. So I guess that's where I was like, okay, like, you gave us a nice, even paced little series here.
Yeah. And I do, even talking about it now, like, again, it was enjoyable. I wasn't going to miss it. But I think that's where my gauge is right now. Last episode of WandaVision, I'm up at 5:15 in the morning so I can watch it before I go to school.
Right. Yeah.
With Loki, again, if Loki is that good, great. Again, Black Widow, like, when it comes out, like, and it's going to be available for me to rent for an extra $20 or $30 on Disney Plus. Yeah, but it will probably be Friday night. It'll probably be Friday night when everything's done and I'm settled in, and it doesn't have to be first thing in the morning, or I don't, whereas, like, the next Into the Spider-Verse or the next Spider-Man movie, Yeah, like this Christmas time when the new Spider-Man movie comes out. Yeah, I will be I will be there as soon
you're
as I
there.
can.
I'm there. Yeah.
So yeah, again, great overall job. It is again, thank the 16-year-old Richard who one of these days I will bust out. I found an old notebook of what 16-year-old Richard used to do, and actually, you know what? I'll embarrass myself right now if you'll allow it, Ryan.
Yeah. Let's do it, man.
I won't be able to hear you while I go. You talk about the future. I mean, I you know what? I think I might just tease it because it really will be an embarrassing thing. But 16-year-old Richard would have just been blown away by the concept that this is that. Yeah. Oh my God. I'm watching, Falcon, Winter Soldier, Sharon Carter, Baron Zemo, like all of these major characters. And again, we've barely touched, the Flag Smashers, like all of these things are on my TV screen for 6 weeks in a row. After WandaVision came out, I gotta wait again. Like I gotta wait a couple weeks till Loki starts, and then I get to watch Black Widow, and then I have to wait, and again they're gonna throw Bad Batch in there, like Shang-Chi, like other things are gonna come out. It really is. It's a very much a pinch me kind of time because I saw some scenes of Armor Wars, and it's like, all right, like Armor Wars is real things. It's not just it's not a cartoon, like it's not, like there's so much stuff happening and it's cool. And knock on wood, like there have been no major failures, like there have been no Superman Batmans, and that's not and it's not really to even make a joke out of it. Like everything is solid, and
we haven't even gotten to Obi-Wan yet.
Yeah, right. We haven't gotten to Obi-Wan, but again, like this weekend when Shannon was doing some work on Friday, and so she didn't want to focus on anything on TV. She just wanted background noise, and I hit the guide on the TV, and it was like TBS, TNT, FX, one other network. Everything was Thor, Deadpool, Black Panther, and then a fourth, Captain Marvel. Like, and it wasn't just like one channel was shown. It was like it was on 4 different channels, and and the dumb part of me that was like, oh my goodness, what a world we live in where all these shows are all over the place. But also they're on my Disney Plus at a moment's notice, and and again I settle for Black Panther, and because I, and I have a podcast idea that we need to do where. We'll definitely have to have David or some other people on too, like where we maybe list our top 5 movies and see how many are similar. But I was like, Black Panther is locked in as one of my top 5. It's just,
that has to be the discussion in the basement. That has to be one of them.
Yeah, no, that's a good idea. Yeah, right. So
for those of you that are listening, eventually we're going to, not that Richard and I don't see each other, but we're going to have an in-depth conversation here in my basement, if you will, where we all go toe to toe. Probably a little bit of a longer episode. We're just working out the kinks. We had the idea right here, right now. But, it wouldn't be like an hour long because we'll just give you guys a little tip of the iceberg, if you will. Richard and I were talking about, and I'm just saying it here, you guys can bash me for it later. I don't put Christopher Nolan's Batman at the top. That's not an hour discussion. That's like an hour and a half too, because that needs multiple people, multiple experts, and I'm sure we all have very different feelings about Batman and the Nolan verse, as they refer to it.
Do you define Christian Bale differently, or does it all wrap up into one thing?
As far as Batman,
like, are you saying like the Christopher Nolan Batman movies, or Christian Bale's Batman? Are they two different things, or are they all wrapped up together?
I think they're all wrapped up together. If I'm being honest, and we'll just give everybody a sneak peek here with the 2 minutes that we have left. I always felt like the Nolan verse didn't have the comic book feel, if you will. Like,
sure, it was, yeah.
You know what I mean? And people always say, well, that was the point. And I'm like, no, I wanted to see, like, you remember in Batman Begins, we saw Batman gliding across the sky and, fighting a little bit faster. We didn't see Batman glide in the next two. He, when he was in Hong Kong, he did that, but he had like a parachute attached. You know what I mean? He wasn't just using his cape doing his Batman stuff. He had his little I know what you're saying, the sticky gun or whatever. Right. But yeah, so that, and one of the big ones, and I'll definitely leave you guys with a cliffhanger here for all of us to talk about. Richard and I have said that we could do a podcast on Jokers. I always ask myself, would people love, or would people be as interested in The Dark Knight with Heath Ledger? Sorry, I lost Richard.
That was all me. I thought it was you, and it was me. All right.
I always ask myself, and I wonder if Richard thinks the same thing. I always wonder, would Heath Ledger's Joker be as big, and would people love The Dark Knight as much, non-Batman fans included, if Heath Ledger hadn't passed away prior to the release? That's I don't mean to. I have nothing against Heath Ledger. I love his
Joker his Joker stands alone, right? But yeah, and again, it's actually a really interesting. We should invite you guys to a planning session, because we don't actually do planning sessions. We do them live on air. So, but again, it is the idea that would Heath Ledger's Joker, because Heath Ledger would have gone on to be continually doing whatever he wanted, and he would have been, much like Phoenix is, does whatever he wants. So again, would they have wanted Joker to come back? Again, I know they would want to, and would he have refused to? Would he have worked around it? Would he have just, which again, is kind of like what you see with Jared Leto. We're seeing now Jared Leto for the third time now, and will we see him again? But, and it's the idea these characters are supposed to come back. We saw Thanos in 5 different movies. We see other villains in several movies, because we get to see them. And I think sometimes what they did in earlier movies, and I don't know if the Nolan verse is guilty of this. I think he knew he didn't want to make is so Jack Nicholson as the Joker, they put everything they could into that, because they didn't know if they'd have a second movie. This was, whereas now, they're going to come out with Fantastic Four at some point or whenever. I guarantee that we saw Dr. Doom appear in the other Fantastic Four versions, and they had to get him right into us. And that first Fantastic Four Dr. Doom was real. I liked the casting of him, but they did not do a great story. But they forced him, and now we'd see Dr. Doom in a after credit scene, and then we'd see him do a couple things, and then he'd be the big villain. But he'd be the big villain over 2 or 3 movies. So
yeah, he wouldn't be right away. Yeah,
right. Which again, that again, if you can go back in time, and again, and maybe if the Patterson people know that they've got a show to work with, maybe we see a Joker card somewhere in Easter egg, or maybe we see, the comedian, the Arthur character, doing that stand-up.
I did love that ending in Begins when he gave him the card. I remember the whole theater went, "Whoa!" Right. Opening night. But I did love that.
But that's what you got, and right. And again, if they do the Joker in the Patterson universe, again, that's the thing now, because
we're still waiting on Taskmaster, everybody.
Yeah. So one of these days, we'll see him July 9th or July 11th. One of these days, we'll see Taskmaster. I was going to say, anyone who watches this from start to finish, please time how long we actually talked about Falcon and Winter Soldier, and we talked about, and again, I really just, so.
No, we have a lot of fun doing this, as everybody knows, and like Richard said, we'll start with one thing, but I think that's the beauty of podcasts. We always say that. So we went from the Golden Globes to Taskmaster. That's how podcasts work.
That's how it works. Yeah.
All right. But yes, thank you for joining us. And I think Richard and I agree. You can count on seeing us Mondays at 8 p.m. consistently until summer comes up and we have vacations or whatever the case may be. But yes, we'll be consistent. Monday, 8 p.m. We'll go live. We'll keep bringing you content.
Right. Or if we change it, I think we both love doing it on Restream like this. So even if it's we're just talking to ourselves just so we can film it this way to share with you later. You might start to see some 1 a.m. podcasts, and but I really, Restream is the way to go. I'm glad that thank you, Restream.
Thank you, Restream. Now sponsor us. I do love this too.
Thank you, Restream. I love that I have zero concept of how to handle this camera, and knowing no, but that's not where I'm holding it in real life. And
the second you pulled that up, I thought about that scene from Wayne's World, but he goes, yes, exactly. But it's also the choice of a new generation.
Yeah. So
all right, thank you, everyone. Thanks for watching us. We'll see you next time.